Alright, we have a 722.317 transmission here off of a 300 TD Mercedes diesel. And I took the valve body out so that I can install the superior transmission spring kit. The first one I've done before I started the video was I had a problem with shift 3 into 4 basically happening as soon as it shifted into 3. So if my engine load is very low, it'll shift into 3 and then immediately tries to get number 4. And the downside is the vacuum level in the car isn't proper, so then it wants to flare. If I disconnect the vacuum line from the vacuum modulator, right here's the vacuum modulator on the driver's side of the transmission. You can see that little black plastic part with the vacuum line connected to it. If I disconnect that vacuum line I just showed you, then the transmission shifts very firmly into every gear. So I don't think there's anything wrong with the transmission. So I changed only this one where the arrow says 2 and 3. In this kit there's 2 springs. So this one is new. This is for the 2 and 3 here, which I did not replace. And then this one came out of 3 and 4, which I have already replaced before I started the video. This one, or the replacement that I put in, is just a little bit longer, so I think we'll create a little bit more pressure or something before the valve opens. To change number 3 and 4 here, what I did was I removed the valve body, which basically drained the transmission fluid, and then take all these bolts out on the bottom, and this whole assembly just comes down. I loosen everything. I take all the bolts out except 2, and then I loosen them so they're hand tight, and then I just put my hand on the bottom here and hold it up against the car while I back the last 2 screws out, and then I brought it to a clean work area. This is the back side of the valve body, so closest to the pumpkin, and I remove these screws here and took this plate off. That plate is this one right here. Basically number 1 here is this one. He's just free floating. I think it's the gear selector. And then number 4, number 7, and number 11, I want to say, they had springs in them, so as I backed these screws out, this plate wanted to lift up. So basically what I did is I removed all of them except 2, and then I put my finger on it and took the last 2 out, and then I just carefully lifted up. This plate here in the corner has a little bit of a catch, so that needs to hold this plastic piece upright, and this side is just rounded out. Basically, for number 2 and 3 shift, it is, here you can see the long opening. There you can also see the long opening, so it's the one closest to this piece, is this valve right here. So what I did was I pulled out, the plunger is like a steel tube, and then there's the long spring inside, and then somewhere in that spring is also this metal piece. So just be mindful of that. When I pull number 4 out, I would have to pull the spring out, and then I stuck the new spring in, and I just made sure that that little metal piece there is inside the spring. and then I put number 4 in, pushed him down, made sure it moves in and out properly, and then I put this plate back on. Alright, I keep screwing up here. I'm looking for step number 2. I want to change the K2 governor spring to fix 3 and 4, make it firmer. Number 2, so down here it says clearly that K2 is for shifting from 3rd to 4th, and up here K2's on this side, so is on the side of the valve body closest to the pumpkin. And I want to change number 2 here, that little spring. So I removed the K2 cover and the spring is not in here. Then I removed the 44 here, this funny looking one right there, but the spring is not under there, and it appears like it's maybe lined up with that hole, which means it's in there. I'm going to have to investigate a little bit. I don't know how to remove that. Looks like has something to do with the bottom side. Hopefully I don't have to split the valve body, but we will see. Alright, so unfortunately it looks like I'm gonna have to split the valve body in order to change number 2 spring here. To do that, I think I remove this one and this one while holding it together. Then I want to flip it upside down because it says leave the separator plate covering the thicker part of the valve body to keep the check balls and other miscellaneous parts in place. And the top here is definitely the thick part, so I'm going to remove the 2 screws, flip it over, and carefully split it. Then we will see how we proceed from there. Right, the screws are out, and I have the valve body upside down, so this is what you see when you take the oil pan off the bottom of the transmission. So I'm going to set the camera down and carefully lift this piece off, and hopefully we don't lose any parts. Alright, so far so good. We took the top off, flipped it upside down. I didn't see any balls or anything go rolling, so that's obviously a plus. I'm going to carefully remove the separator plate now, I think, because I need to, let me get my bearings here. No, I don't have to do that. Is this part that I want to work on. So this is the rear side again, so we want to get into that little hole there. It looks like there's a metal bar that's holding the spring in. That metal bar is visible right there. I tried to push in and slide the bar down. It does not go down, so I expect that probably has to come up. I think maybe this is the bar. So I'm going to set the camera down and push that pin up from the bottom side. Alright, so here we are again. I took my screwdriver and I push in from the bottom. There's a little hole down here, and when I did that, I was able to push that bar up a little bit, which made this piece come out on the top side here. So I'm just going to set the camera down. I'm going to use a pick or something and push down on that shiny ring, pull this pin out the rest of the way, and then I'll come back and see what we find under there. Alright, good news and bad news. So after I pulled that little bar up, this cap was stuck down here, and I was trying to see if I can pry it up, and apparently it was only sticking a little bit because this piece came rocketing out of there and hit me center on the forehead, but I guess that's better than going out across the room. I'm pretty sure this is the only piece that was in there, and now the spring is visible. There she is. I'm going to dig through my kit here. I think this is the white one here, so I will dig the white one out and we'll see if we can get this back together. Alright, so on the right side is the original spring, on the left side is the new white spring. It clearly says here, replace the accumulator control valve spring with the white spring supplied. And in my kit, a little difficult to see, but the only white ones is the little one here at the top. So the white one is definitely a little bit shorter, but I guess that's what it's supposed to be like. We will go ahead, put the white one into the hole for number 2 on the K2 side, and there we can also see I now know what this symbol is this piece, and then we have the circle piece after that. I'm going to put that white spring in and we'll close it up and put the 2 valve body pieces back together. Just a quick clip here. So I was thinking that possibly this piece, because it came flying out, I don't know which way it was turned. I was thinking perhaps the spring goes inside this hole, but there's no way that the spring is small enough to fit in the center there. And if I look at the one beside it, and I also reviewed some of the previous videos I made, it actually goes spring facing this side. You can actually see a little bit of a mark there. So it's going to go into the hole upside down with the dish on the outside. Alright, she's all back together. Hopefully this will work. So far we replaced the number 2 spring here and the number 3/4 spring here. This was for the stacked shift from 3 to 4. And this number 2 was to firm up shift 3 to 4. Both of them are located on this side of the valve body. So the long spring here for the stack shift was underneath this cover, and the to firm up shift 3 to 4, or for the K2 clutch, is located in here. So to change the spring I had to split the valve body. Be very careful when you take this apart. You have to take out this screw and this screw. Make sure when you take this apart that the thicker part, so this piece, is laying down. So you got to take the 2 screws out, then hold the 2 pieces together, flip it upside down. So this is the part you'll see when you take the oil pan off the transmission. Then carefully lift this upper piece off, but make sure that the separator plate, which is this little plate right in here, make sure that one stays on top of this piece. Now probably it'll stick on due to the oil, which mine did, but I'm going to reinstall it in the car, put the oil pan on, put oil back in, and we will cross our fingers that she will drive, perhaps even shift in all gears. And if we're super lucky, all of the shifting problems for 3 to 4 will be gone. Alright, I got 2 bolts in so far. I just want to, in case somebody ever watches this video and they're using it, when you put this back on the car, there's also a separator plate up here that it stayed stuck to the bottom of the transmission when I had the valve body out. But on this plate there's a little plastic piece that needs to fit into the valve body when the valve body goes up again. So when you take this up, first of all, you want to make sure that your gear selector pin here is in the groove from on the plastic piece, and the other side is quite simple. That only goes against like that. But when you push it up against, you want to make sure that it's actually going up tight against everywhere, because when I went up against the first time, I could push this side against, but this one was gapped a couple millimeters because that plastic piece on the upper separator plate was not in the valve body correctly. So basically I just moved it back and forth and wiggled it a little bit, and then I could feel it pop up. So just a heads up that you don't put the bolts in and tighten her down and break that plastic piece. Alright, so transmission is back together. I put in the oil that I got out. I'm sure I'm gonna have to add a little bit. I had it on the lift, I took it up and I put it in reverse. It went in reverse, I put it in forward. It went forward. I accelerated a little bit and it definitely shifted. I don't know how many times, but I'm going to take you on its trial run. Shoes and gear. I'm going to take you on the trial run with me so you can share my grief if it doesn't work or maybe doesn't shift at all anymore. So we are in first. We're going to go this way. My tachometer doesn't work, but I have a new one on the rear seat. Let's see, I'm gonna have to go out on the road, get a little bit more speed. We're still in first gear. I did not adjust any vacuum or kick down cable or boating cable or whatever it's called. I did not adjust any of that. We're just gonna run it and see what she's like the way it is. So she still did not shift, and I'm gonna pull it down into second here. She should be in low gear. We're at a complete stop. Waiting on traffic here, and then we are going to accelerate. We have a little bit of a hill here. So there's second. There's third. Ooh, there's fourth, and it flared pretty bad. Maybe some fluid just needs to get in there first or something. We're gonna put the camera down and do a little bit of testing and see. So I warmed it up, and I'm going to take it back and check the oil level. I definitely need to make some vacuum adjustments and adjust the cable, but I'm feeling pretty good. I have not had a stacked shift. I still had a little bit of flare, or quite a bit of flare from 3 to 4 right in the start. However, that seems to have gone away a little bit. Seems to be there when I'm under heavy acceleration, more so perhaps is only a vacuum adjustment. Maybe my fluid is a little low, but we're gonna fill her up and see what it is like, make some adjustments. It does not shift into fourth quick enough. Gets way too many revs, so I'm going to tweak that cable to make it shift to let it shift a little bit sooner. I had turned that one out pretty far so that it does not stack as easily. So yeah, I'm gonna do some adjusting and we'll see what the results are. Alright, I'm back. I took the K2 cover off in the back, and inside we had this piece with the small spring inside the big one, like that. The instructions say to remove these two and put in only this one, but later on in the steps, if you want to make shift from 3 to 4 firmer yet, then you add the original small spring inside the newly installed red one. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to make it as firm as possible and drive the car. If it's too hard, then I'll just open it and take the inner spring out. But at least I should be able to see a huge difference by installing this spring. The red one is longer and stronger than the original one. So I'm going to install this in the car and see what the results are. So after replacing the K2 spring with the red one and the original small one on the inside, so the as firm as a shift that the kit will offer, under light acceleration is doing quite well, I think. Definitely took most of the flare away, if not all. I'm still trying to fine tune a little bit. Go pull in front here and let this car pass so I can do another start, but this time with heavy acceleration. So uphill here. Jerked. I'm gonna let off and jerked. So under heavy acceleration, it jerks a bit, but it's okay. I don't normally drive like that, and I'd rather it jerk a little bit than slip. So we're gonna do a normal acceleration here in a moment and see what she does. I think I need to adjust the boating cable a little bit to make it wait a little bit longer before it shifts. First gear smooth, second gear smooth. Must have started off in second, but they were all good. So we'll wrap it up for today, tweak that cable a little bit, and then let it sit, wait for the oil to cool off, and hope that it still shifts nice.